Welcome to the Date Forever podcast. Keep your relationship fueled up with strategies discovered by couples and experts. Because at Fuel Collective, we believe better relationships will equal a better world. You are about to discover specific insights and tools that cost little or nothing to implement to help you date forever. And now, here are your hosts, a couple who always have a half-packed suitcase and a date night in the calendar, Sammy and Nathan Yeager.
Hello and welcome to Date Forever. In this week's episode, we're going to chat a little bit more about the Fueled Up life and how Sammy and I are keeping our 8 fuel tanks fueled up.
So before we launch in, let's do a little recap of what on earth is a Fueled Up life and what are these fuel tanks we're talking about. So quite a few years ago, Nathan and I started an annual planning practice where we would spend 1 or sometimes 2 days right at the end of the year, normally in November, planning the year ahead. And we would review the year that was and then set some goals and intentions for the following year. And it was around 4 or 5 years into this process that we realized that there was a really consistent theme of the different areas of our life that were either thriving or kind of struggling. And we sort of were able to compartmentalize them into these 8 different areas that really result in life being full and abundant and wonderful. And it's not about having all 8 absolutely thriving all at the same time, but it's about developing a framework to sort of look at life and go, what's actually working really well and what area could do with some more attention or some more fuel. So the language of like the fueled up life really kind of came from this idea of, you've probably heard the saying like, you can't pour from an empty cup. But we just imagined like what would happen if we were very proactively adding fuel to the various areas of our life and relationship.
Yeah.
Very consciously stopping to add more fuel in so that no area of our life ever really hit empty or breakdown.
So as Sammy mentioned, this kind of came about from our annual game plan practice and our annual planning process. And so what we would then do is set really clear goals around these 8 fuel tanks so that we were, over the duration of the next year, really consciously adding fuel back into each of these tanks.
So let's recap them. So the first one is your self fuel tank. And that's really about your relationship with yourself, being an interesting, dynamic person who's got hobbies, interests, values.
And this also includes like personal health and things like that too. So the next one then is romantic relationships. That's the relationship with your special someone.
Our marriage.
Our marriage, yeah. And then the next one is relationships and network. So this is everyone outside of your romantic partner. So that's your friends, your family, your colleagues, kind of everyone else in your day-to-day world.
Yeah, this tank is about acknowledging that life is better when you've got people around you who celebrate when you win and who are there to help you commiserate when things are a bit shit.
Yeah, that's it. So then the fourth tank is our humming household. So that's everything in our day-to-day lives, making sure that we're fed and watered and we have a roof over our heads.
It's more than having a roof over your head though. Like it's like how humming is the daily grind and logistics of running a household.
Yeah, and what can we do to simplify that and make it much more streamlined?
Yeah, so that it's not taking too much energy to make it go.
Yeah, definitely. So the fifth tank is then our career and business tank. So this is our jobs, our work, our satisfaction and business.
Then the 6th tank is wealth and lifestyle. And what we realized is that it's all well and good to go and make the bank in your career and business. But if the money and the wealth and the lifestyle isn't there, like you're working hundreds of hours or you're not being rewarded appropriately, or if you're not building towards a lifestyle that's really meaningful and designed and intentional for you, that it can actually feel really shit.
Yeah.
So this one's about really being really intentional about the kind of money that you want to make and how you want to spend your time.
So then number 7 is the world. That's really looking at the greater world and what contribution we can make towards making the world a better place.
And lucky last, number 8, the future. So what we really realized was that if we were setting goals at a sort of like annual level, 365-day level, like we were never really thinking about the longer term future, like the bigger picture, like bit spooky, but like how old are we going to be when we retire? What do we want that to look like? And how can we reverse engineer that from today to arrive there? So if Sammy and Nath right now never took care of Sammy and Nath in the future, it's not like it's just waiting there for us. Like we're creating it. So we decided we wanted to be really intentional about setting some goals that were for the long-term future. So what we're going to do is share a little bit about where we're at with those fuel tanks currently and what we're doing to fuel them up. And if they're struggling, why might that be? So Nath, maybe do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So tank number 1 is self.
Yeah, how are you going?
Yeah, pretty good. I'm doing all right. So one of the things that I'm kind of focusing on at the moment was that my football season is just wrapped up. And so that was ticking a few boxes for myself. So that was providing some of those kind of personal relationships. It was also kind of ticking the health and fitness box as well. So one of the things that I'm doing there is I've made a clear kind of conscious decision now that that's wrapped up to sign up to a bike race so that I'm ticking that self box in a few different ways. So I'll be able to get my health and fitness and train that way, but then also some connection with some different friends as well while training for that. So what about you, Sammy? How are you looking after your self box at the moment?
So something that I'm doing really proactively is blocking out about an hour, hour and a half in my calendar every single day to move my body. I have been on a mission to close my Apple rings. So that's a move goal, an exercise goal, and a stand goal every day. I'm on a streak that's well over a year now, which has been so valuable for me. And that's really about carving out intentional time for me to move my body and feel good in my mind and body every single day. It's not always at the same time every day. And sometimes when I planned it for, it doesn't happen then. But it reminds me that I am a priority, and without my relationship with myself, everything else kind of goes out the window. So that's something that's working really well for me. Another is that I spend quite a bit of time each week on Audible listening to books, and I generally lean towards personal development books, things that are going to teach me something or help me develop or master a skill. But growth is also really important to me, so that fits my needs. Another thing that I'm doing at the moment is, in the past, I've really struggled to have a personal identity outside of my work. And I've let hobbies and interests that aren't like quote unquote productive fall away. So something that I'm trying to be really conscious about at the moment is engaging in hobbies and activities that are just for joy, that are just for creativity. So I'm in the middle of a ceramics course at the moment, something that I always wanted to do. The rest of my life is such a busy, but I'm making time for a creative outlet that's screen-free and nurturing, my relationship with myself and my creativity.
Yeah. So, tank number 2, romantic relationship.
How's this tank, Nath?
Yeah, this tank's going pretty good, I think, at the moment. So we're continuing to do our 2x2x2 date nights. So that's a date night every 2 weeks. So if you haven't heard us talk about this before, in the first half of the month, I'll organise a date for the two of us. And then in the second half of the month, Sammy will organise a date for the two of us.
But the 2x2x2 part is that every 2 weeks, we go out for a date. Yeah. Every 2 months, we try and have a night away. And then twice a year, we try and have a holiday.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so our 2x2x2 date night practice is really working.
Yeah, it is working really well for us at the moment.
But what else are we doing to keep our marriage and relationship fueled up?
So one of the other small practices that we've embedded into our weekends is to go for 2 coffees and a treat as well. So we'll often go for a walk somewhere. So this kind of ties in a number of these fuel tanks. But we normally go for a walk or something somewhere. We'll sit down and have a conversation and a new coffee. So it kind of ticks that variety bucket as well. And yeah, we're taking it in turns to choose a new cafe to go to and to have a little treat and some connection time.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying that practice at the moment. But one of the other things I think we're doing really well at the moment is like our weekly check-in chat or our happy hour chat. We generally do it on a Sunday night, and you can get the agenda that we use on our website, fuelcollective.com.au/freebies. It's called the happy hour agenda. Basically, we run through like 5 or 6 different questions that really intentionally keep us on the same page about priorities, what's going on in our world, staying connected, and whether or not we can help each other. How can we help each other to have a better week?
So, tank number 3 is relationships and networks. What's working for you at the moment, Sammy?
So I'm queen of group chat. So a couple of things that are working really well for me at the moment is engaging in those group chats and being a bit more conscious about sharing trials, tribulations, triumphs with my friends. Yeah, that's helping me feel really connected to my networks. I've also been setting some really consistent, reoccurring dates with my girlfriends. Like, we found a really nice rhythm where we have like one sort of like every 6 weeks or so where we get to spend a good few hours together. And then at that date, we book in the next one. It sounds so simple, but it really is like nurturing those relationships and treating them like they're a priority, because they are.
Yeah.
And then like with my peers and colleagues and things like that, I'm trying to be a little bit more active and connection driven outside of the times that I'm directly in front of people. So I know that might sound a bit funny, but I work from home, and I do a few different things in a few different lanes. So I'm never really like in front of anyone to have an incidental conversation. So I'm trying to do a bit more of those kind of things, whether or not it's just picking up the phone and giving someone an out of the blue kind of phone call, or sliding into their DMs out of the blue, or, really actively responding to content that they're putting out in the world as well. So that seems to be working quite well for me at the moment. What about you?
At the moment, it's kind of about trying to convert some friends from specific circles into friends outside of those circles. So I guess as an example, I've already mentioned about my football season. And so it's just trying to nurture some of those friendships to be outside of the football field and into day-to-day life. And it's kind of similar with my work colleagues as well. So just consciously spending a bit more time with some work colleagues outside of work hours, doing social drinks and things like that. So yeah, just trying to level up friendships in those areas. Tank number 4 is humming household.
What are we doing to keep this fuel tank full and humming?
So we've got a few new practices. We were very much advocates for the meal kit delivery service for quite some time, but we're just trying to provide a little bit more variety in that space. And so we're doing a couple of different meal services at the moment. So we've got the fruit and veg delivery box. It's like a mystery box, but it comes once a week, which has been really cool. And then doing monthly shops as well. So doing a monthly meat shop and then a monthly food shop as well to go along with that. And that seems to be working really well for us.
Yeah, it's really good. Hey, it's been really great for our budget to have a predictable staples shop, and then our fruit and veg arriving weekly. That's made the time and effort that we would otherwise spend like feeding ourselves so much less. And we only have to talk about it, probably like a portion of the amount of time that we were spending pre-meal kit delivery. But yeah, I definitely think those couple of things really help us have a humming household, and doing those deliveries online, sitting down together, being very conscious about what we're buying, where we're buying it from. I think a big shift from the meal kit delivery service to like a more direct, getting our fruit and veg from the fruit and veg place is also about minimizing our waste and the air miles and the packaging. Yeah, so I think what we're doing at the moment is really great, and it also creates certainty, stability, predictability. There's a rhythm and routine around it that's predictable and repeatable.
Yep. Was there anything else for Humming Household?
Yes, this is a huge plug for Eve Rodsky and her book Fair Play, and we implemented her system earlier this year. I read the book, and it's all about dividing household tasks with a level of transparency. So there's a book and a deck of cards that outline so many different tasks that you probably know that you're doing, but have never ever equally distributed or very consciously distributed the tasks. So we've been using this system, and I highly recommend getting curious about it if you feel like the distribution of workload in your home is not where you want it to be. It's been really good for Nathan and I to create a bit more transparency and a bit more ownership over who's doing what, who's accountable, who's going to make this happen. And it's minimized our back and forth. It's created a bit more freedom. One of the tasks in our household that is just like the pits is laundry. We both don't like it. Yeah. We both aren't good at it. And now we've created a system where we kind of take it in turns and we have full transparency of who's responsible for creating the clean clothes and getting them washed, dried, folded, back in the cupboard. It feels much more balanced for me. I feel less burdened by it because I know that I only have to deal with it while I hold that card and then I get to forget about it.
Yeah, it's good. So tank number 5 is career and business. So what are you doing in this area, Sammy?
Okay, this fuel tank is probably the one that's struggling the most at the moment for me. And I think that's a consequence of doing so many different things.
Yeah.
Because I freelance, I have a job, I have another business that I'm building, I have the Fuel Collective and this podcast, and then I do some speaking and hosting workshops and things like that too. So sometimes I'm struggle to manage all of those things, and it can be a bit like, oh, everything's all landed all in the 1 week. So that fuel tank struggles a little bit when I don't create great visibility. But what I am doing to take better care of that fuel tank is saying no to things more often. And that looks like the phrase, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I'm trying on at the moment.
Yeah, you're being much more conscious about the things that you are saying yes to that are actually moving you in the right direction that you want to be going, rather than just saying yes to something because you've said yes to it in the past.
Yeah, but I would say that one of the things that is keeping that fuel tank fueled up and feeling quite good is some intentionality around what I want and where I'm going. Probably about a month or so ago, I took myself out for breakfast, sat down with my journal and thought, okay, Sammy in 5 years, what are the things that she really wants to achieve? And what are the opportunities and skills and training and learning that I need to acquire to achieve those things? So that created a bit more focus for me in this area, which really helped. What about you, Nath? What are you doing to keep this fuel tank alive?
Yeah, I've just been through the same kind of process recently as well around my career and my role and things like that. I work full-time as an engineer. So, yeah, it's been good recently just having some of those forward-thinking chats about where I want my career to go, also where the business is going and things like that too. So, yeah, that's been fueling me up at the moment.
Have you got any daily practices or weekly practices or anything that help you keep that one under control that I can maybe learn from?
I'm not really sure, but one of the things that's changed recently for me in this career and business space is that a few years ago, I was very much kind of a 9 to 5 in the office. And when I come home, I could completely switch off and didn't need to think about work outside of work hours. Whereas more recently with working from home and things like that, like it has given me a lot more flexibility, but it's also meant that work can spill over into personal time and things like that. So I think sometimes it's just about holding kind of those clear boundaries around work time or not work time. And if I am choosing to work flexibly, that I still put boundaries around that and that I don't kind of let it spill into Sammy and Nath time.
Or Nathan time.
Or Nathan time.
Or friend time.
Yeah.
Or household time.
Yeah. I think it can be one of those things that easily spills over into other areas of your life and can be all-consuming, especially as people adjust to more working from home and things like that, and you don't have commutes and whatever else. So just to be conscious about the time that you're working.
Okay, number 6, wealth and lifestyle. What are we doing to keep this fuel tank fueled up?
So a new practice that we've had for a few months now is our Wealthy Wednesday habit. So it's just a bit of conscious blocked out time to talk about our wealth and lifestyle. It probably started at about tax time or something where we were like, all right, we need to have a few dedicated kind of sessions to get our tax and stuff in order. But it's actually been really good now. It's been a bit more proactive and a bit more forward thinking, like the conversations that we're having in those sessions.
Yeah, kind of move from like money management to like future forecasting.
Yeah, definitely.
And what are we doing in those Wealthy Wednesday kind of chats?
So there's a few things. So one of the things that I did recently was sign up to a bit of a property challenge. So it kind of is a online course that takes you through some lessons to learn before investing in property and things like that. So we're spending some time doing that. Sometimes it is a bit more practical and looking at our accounts and managing our money, but normally we're trying to do things that are forward-looking.
So Nath's kind of covered the wealth part of it. So for me, the lifestyle part of it is I'm being very conscious about how I design my calendar and my week each week. So although it might be very full, there's times where I am not available for meetings, phone calls. I'm being very conscious about creating like deep work flow time, which is allowing me to do things like walk my dog in the middle of the day when it's glorious, rather than having to do it late at night. Because I've designed my life and my lifestyle around not having a 9 to 5 job, I do have quite a lot of flexibility that really fulfills me in terms of that lifestyle piece, because I do like variety and I do like having a balance between some structure and some rhythm, but also the freedom and flexibility to lean into my energy. And when I'm feeling really great and on focus and on task, that I can double down on that versus like feeling like I have to start and stop at particular times. Yeah, so I think from the lifestyle point of view, having really good transparency over my calendar, what it looks like at a week level, what it kind of looks like at a month level, and being intentional about, when's Sammy time, when's work time, when's moving my body time, when is there white space, which I need more of. That's probably the thing that would stop that tank from being like truly full, is that I'm still overcommitting.
Yeah. One of the other things too, so we do have a goal to be working 4 days a week. And so one of the things that I've also done recently is switch to a 9-day working fortnight, which has got me half the way there. So instead of working 5 days a week, I'm now working basically 4.5. So
I think it's really good to even have that goal to work 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And not all year. Yeah, you've probably heard us say on the show before that we want to work 4 days a week, 40 weeks a year. That's what we're shooting for. That's our North Star kind of, isn't it? Yeah. To give us the freedom to be location agnostic and do the travel that we want to do, and not necessarily just travel, but to be able to work from other places too.
Yeah.
So that's a nice lifestyle goal that we've got.
Yeah, exactly. So number 7 then, the world. So what are you doing to keep that tank fueled up?
Yeah, so a new thing that I'm doing in terms of contribution and giving my gifts to the world, I'm a volunteer coach on a leadership and kindness program, which is primarily for scholarship students. And they are asylum seekers, migrants, people with disability, neurodiverse, members of the rainbow community, and other minority groups like people of colour. So a couple of hours each month, I'm spending some time with 2 different coachees, guiding them through a program for the next year. So for me, that feels like a really great way to share some of the skills and lessons that I've learned directly with people who will find that beneficial, to sort of take a little shortcut. So that feels like a really great thing that I'm contributing at the moment. The other thing is having a lens of, is this sustainable? And I've been asking myself that question more and more and more on most of my purchasing decisions. Not just purchasing decisions, but also like activities and commitments. Like, is this sustainable? Is this something that I could do long term? Is this good for the world? Is this good for people? Is this good for the planet? Yeah, and it's definitely changed some buying behavior, and even just the way that I consume. There's things that I just say no to now. Yeah. And I think it's kind of like a muscle. The more you use it, the easier it is to use and the stronger it gets.
Yeah. And I guess the more you realize as well what purchasing decisions might not be the greatest purchasing decisions either.
What about you, Nath? What are you doing to keep your world tank fueled up?
Yeah, mine was around those lines. So we've got a goal this year to replace a number of items within our house with more sustainable versions. So we've been able to do it with a few things, like to replace like baking paper with some reusable mats, and even just changing our groceries and our fruit and veg to be a sustainable service rather than buying it from a chain supermarket where everything comes wrapped in plastic. So we've got a number of those things that we've already implemented throughout the year, and we've got a few more to go as well.
I think this is worth noting, is that we're not trying to replace perfectly functional items or things in our life and then throwing them in the bin to replace with a sustainable option.
No.
Like, that's counterintuitive. You know, when we get the opportunity to replace something, we're looking for better
The sustainable
options.
option, yeah. Another thing that we continue to do for the world is giving via Buy One, Give One. So as you'd be aware, at the end of every podcast episode, we give to a cause that aligns with our guest and something that is really important to them. So, yeah, we continue to do that, and we also do some giving of ourselves as well.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I do to keep this tank filled up is any opportunity that I get to talk about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, I will grab that opportunity with both hands. So I'm injecting that into speaking gigs with the leadership teams that I'm working with the companies that I have influence. I'm motivating all of them to consider what could their business be doing that is about more than making money.
Yeah.
What social impact can they have? What causes do they care about? And how can they meaningfully contribute to them? So I feel like I get the opportunity to have quite a ripple effect from my advocacy because I really do believe that business can be about so much more than making money. Like, if we all decided that we were committed to creating a better world, imagine what we could do.
Yeah, amazing. And then the final tank number 8, the future. So what are you doing to look towards the future?
I think a big part of our practice that helps keep this fuel tank fueled up is our regular check-ins. So from our annual planning day that I mentioned right at the beginning, we break that down from like the annual plan, but then what are we doing this season? What are the things that are really important for this season? And how do those goals for that season contribute to our bigger goal? So every year as part of our annual planning, Nathan and I talk about where do we want to be 10 years from now? And it's kind of this perpetual long-term goal. And sometimes it changes, other times it doesn't. Or there's parts of it that change. So a common practice I think that helps me feel connected to the future version of Sammy is creating clarity around what that looks like. Who will she be? Who will we be? And what are the things that we will have done, achieved, contributed, acquired in that time? Yeah, so I think that's something that I very consciously do to keep that fuel tank fueled up, is have awareness of the future. Acknowledge that it exists. Acknowledge that what I do today is creating that.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that we do towards the future as well is that we've got our vision board up on the wall so that every time that we walk in and out of our office space, we can see our vision board and see what we're aiming towards. So I think that's really something that's, we've had it for a couple of years. It probably is due for a little bit of a refresh, but that will likely happen in our annual planning session coming up in a couple of months. Yeah, but that vision board has been really valuable in being able to keep that aspiration and that fire for the future alive.
I also think there's some really boring things that we've done for the this fuel tank this year, like things like life insurance, our will, speaking to financial advisors, like for long-term planning. That's all about the future, and it's not very fun for right now. But if I consider that I care about future Sammy, that's more motivating.
Yeah, definitely. So that's it. That's the 8 tanks. So hopefully there's a few things there that you can connect with, or a few things there that you can relate back to your own lives or might be able to implement in your own lives.
Or not even that, just to create the conversation.
Yeah.
Have a conversation either with yourself about these 8 fuel tanks and what's working in those areas and what might need some more fuel. What could you be more intentional about? What area have you been neglecting for a little while, and how could you refuel it? I mean, this show, Date Forever, is about dating yourself and your person forever, intentionally. And all of that is about creating a really incredible relationship that touches on all of those 8 different areas to ultimately have this beautiful, fueled up life, something that feels incredible that you create. So even if you take nothing away from the practices or habits that Nathan and I do to keep those fuel tanks fueled up, some of those things might sound awful to you, and that would actually be really draining and not nourishing and replenishing. But consider what would feel really good, what would be the things that you'd like to do more of, what would be the things that you'd like to do less of to create that beautifully fueled up life.
So to say thank you for spending this time with us and to contribute a little bit more towards that world tank of ours as well, we're giving 10 bricks towards rebuilding classrooms in Indonesia. So this is an amazing project that's managed by Classroom of Hope. And one of the reasons that makes this so amazing is that these bricks are made from recycled plastic, which has been recovered out of our oceans. So it's a multifaceted project that cleans up our world, recycles plastic, creates bricks, and creates classrooms for better education.
So thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope that you are inspired to go and live your fueled up life.
Thanks heaps for joining us. If you love what we're doing here and want more, subscribe to the Date Forever podcast to make sure you never miss an ep. Come and hang out with us and other awesome couples who are fueling up their relationships in the Thriving Couples Collective Facebook group, or check us out at fuelcollective.com.au. Until next time, keep on dating, because better relationships equal a better world.